0, and that doesn't actually give us a triangle. So even though it says x is greater than or equal to, you cannot do 0 itself. So I need to plug in any other positive number here. You can pick whatever you want. If you want to avoid fractions, I would recommend, since we're going to solve for y, we'll have to divide by 2, so I'd pick an even number. So maybe 2. So then if you plug that in, you get y to be -1. And then how do we get r?
X squared plus y squared square root of that x.
So r is the square root of 5. So once we have these, we can do our 6 trig functions. Remember, if you put a trig function, you need an angle with it, so we're going to say sine theta. What is the definition of sine?
Or whatever r rather. I read the r, but I
Opposites by
Opposite over hypotenuse, so y over r. So we get -1 over the square root of 5. Is that proper notation?
no, we gotta get rid of that.
So multiply by radical 5 on top and bottom, so negative radical 5 over 5. Which one is the reciprocal of sine?
cosecant.
So cosecant theta would be r divided by y, or, I'm going to run out of space,
Square root of 5 over -1.
which is
Negative
negative square
square root of 5.
root of 5. So go ahead and make sure they're always in lowest terms. Okay. Cosine, definition of cosine is x over r. So 2 over the square root of 5, or 2 radical 5 over 5. What is the reciprocal of cosine?
Secant.
So secant is the r over x. What?
I have the right letters, but I don't know.
Right. Tangent. What is the definition of tangent?
Y
Y
over
over
x.
So -1/2. Reciprocal of tangent is?
Cotangent.
So it'd be 2 over -1 or -2. Any questions there?
Do you want us to put the angle symbol before theta, or can we just put theta?
Just the theta is fine. We don't need the angles in there. Other questions? When would a trig function turn out to be undefined?
Over 0.
Oh, 0.
Mhm. If the denominator is 0, then our function would be undefined. The only place where we would have a denominator of 0 is if it was a point on the x or y axis. So it has to be, we call those quadrantal angles, if they end on a quadrant. Those would be the only scenarios where we might end up with undefined functions. So let's try one of these.
Would you just do as many trig functions as you could until you got to the part where
You would go ahead and write that one, but you would just say undefined. So if I wanted the 6 trig functions for a 360-degree angle. Oh, also, side note.
I wrote 36 degrees.
Okay. So where is 360 degrees?
On the x-axis.
I don't know why my color keeps changing, but you know.
used to each other.
Yes. So 360 is all the way around. So we're talking about a point here. If I'm going to use that, I would need an ordered pair to go with it. We need an x and a y.
0,
Which one is 0, x or y?
Y.
The y.
Oh, wait.
Just like plotting an ordered pair, x is just positive, so maybe I do positive 1 or 2, whatever you like. And my y would be a 0 because we don't go up or down at all. So then r, we could do x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So r is positive 1. So the sine of 360 degrees, since I actually have a degree measure, I can write that instead of theta. So sine is y over r.
Y over R. Oh, yeah.
What's the definition of cosine?
Undefined.
X over
Oh, cosine.
Sorry, I flipped the order on you. So cosine x over r, 1 over 1 would be 1. Tangent,
So tangent would be 0.
now if we do the reciprocals, cosecant,
It's undefined.
that's the reciprocal sine, 1 over 0, undefined. You could put the empty symbol, but or the empty set. In trig, we usually write the word undefined, just a notation thing. It doesn't really matter. I won't count it wrong, but we're going to see it, the word undefined most of the time. Reciprocal of cosine is secant. And reciprocal of tangent is cotangent. The 1 over 0, which
so one-
is undefined. All right. Any questions on that? I would like for you guys to do this example. All right, so what's our x value?
0.
What's our y?
Negative 5.
How do we find r?
The square root of x squared y squared plus 1.
You notice it's set on black,
Yeah.
but it just has a mind of its own. Right. R is always positive, so we get positive 5. So, sine of theta is, right, y over r, negative 5 over 5 is negative 1. So that means cosecant of theta is also negative 1. Cosine is x over r, so 0. So what would secant be? Okay, tangent, y over x,
Oh, undefined. I got backwards.
and then cotangent
0.
is 0. All right, so again, we have a lot of zeros and undefineds in here. If you drew a picture, where is the point 0, negative 5?
And quadrant. On the quadrant.
It's right here. So when it lies on an axis, that's when we're getting the zeros and undefineds. Same thing we saw here. 360 was on an axis, and we got those. So what I want to do next is fill out this table. These are common trig values. So part of what we will eventually learn are the common angle measurements and what the trig values are at those measurements. So we'll get to the point where we know them and don't have to figure them out every time. But we're going to walk through this for all the quadrantal angles. Now, let's just run through our definitions. What is the definition of sine? Cosine? Tangent? Cotangent?
R over Y.
Oh, I flipped it on you. Cotangent.
X over Y.
Secant?
R over X.
Cosecant?
R over Y.
Sorry. I don't know that I really did that on purpose. I just
Can I
did.
change the order of them?
I don't care. Okay. What I want to do is draw a picture to help find these. So, if I were talking about a 0-degree angle, where would that be?
On the right side of the x-axis.
So probably the easiest point would be what ordered pair?
1, 0.
If I were talking about a 90-degree, where would I put it?
On the top of the y-axis.
Yeah, this is 90, so that would be what ordered pair?
1, 0. Or 0, 1.
Okay, this would represent 180 degrees. What would be that point?
Negative 1, 0.
And this is 270.
0, negative
And 0 degrees is the same as
360.
360. We're back around. Okay. What would my R be for any of those points? 1. R is like your radius. It's just your distance from this point to this point, where x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So in all of these scenarios, the R is 1. So these are the easiest points we can work with. So if I'm talking about 0 degrees, so for 0, we're using the point 1, 0. So sine y over r would be
0.
cosine x over r.
1.
This is 1 over 1. Tangent is y over x. Okay, and if you have these, we can easily get the others by reciprocals. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. What's the reciprocal of 0?
95.
Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. What's the reciprocal of 1?
1.
Cosecant, reciprocal of sine. Let's go to 90 degrees. So for 90, we would use the point 0, 1. Everybody knows where these order pairs came from? Okay. So, sine y over r, 1 over 1 is cosine x over r, so 0 over 1. Tangent y over x, 1 over 0. Cotangent. What's the reciprocal of undefined?
0.
Secant, reciprocal of cosine is and cosecant, the reciprocal of sine. So for 180, y over r for sine would be 0 over 1. Cosine x over r, 1. Tangent y divided by x, 0 divided by negative 1. Cotangent, you could think x over y or reciprocal of tangent. Okay, secant, reciprocal of cosine, or r over x would be, and cosecant. You guys do the next 2 rows. So 270, using this point. Okay, so sine y over r is negative 1, cosine x over r is 0, tangent y over x, undefined, cotangent is 0. And -1. And 360, if you really didn't want to think about it, 360 is the same as what? 0. So it's the same as our first row. So if I asked you to find any of these trig functions at a quadrantal angle, you guys should all be able to do it. Just draw yourself a little picture if you need to. Think about your x, y, and r definition. A large portion of the homework is going to be questions on this. So I need everybody to listen carefully here. On that homework, I am giving you class time. So if I'm giving you the time in class, do you think I want you to just copy the numbers off this table? No, I want you to actually think about it and practice that skill, because on a test or quiz, or every day from here until the end of the semester when we use these, you're not going to have the table sitting in front of you. Okay, so the reason I'm going to give you class time to do these problems is so that you take the time to think about them, not just copy the number down from your table. Deal? Okay, so I gave you part of this section last Thursday, a week ago.
Yeah.
So hopefully you have that portion done. If not, you need to finish it. And then we have today's portion, and this is all going to be due tomorrow.